leave in the middle for a little bit, you know, because it was just getting to be too much. But what would you say to someone who suggested that getting the money out of politics has to happen before anything can happen with this issue?
Well, I don't think it's about before. I think these are concurrent. Look, the thing is that right now, in so many aspects of our life with respect to our representation, our government has gotten so far away from the people making those decisions.
Yeah.
There's this incredible gap. I mean,
Everybody
I was down in Washington, D.C. earlier this week, or whatever week it was, a few days ago. And you just, when you enter that town, you just start to feel that some other type of reality has taken over. And that's the part of the problem, is that our corporate influence in politics is so extreme. And when it comes to oil and gas, it's one of the most extreme influence, and the banking system, obviously. But in every aspect of our control over our own society is slipping away. So I think you're absolutely right. The money out of politics is fundamental to this. But what I would suggest is that when the democracy is being taken away from you, there's a way to go, oh, well, let's fight the big corporations and so on, and fight the government. But it's so exhausting. It makes me depleted and exhausted. There's another route which I'd rather suggest, which is to reinvent democracy as these people have done, as you have done. Because you have reinvented it. This movement has reinvented new forms of democratic participation, some of which were crack in the door, like the environmental impact study in New York State, when everybody ran in and they stopped fracking in New York State for 5 years. Let me finish. Let me finish. Please let me finish my statement, because you're cutting off in the middle of my big, amazing speech. But what I want to say is that there are times when you have to then take that structure that you've created and force it, and find ways of forcing the democracy to start working. Which means if you have to get in the way of a pipeline, you get in the way of a pipeline. It means if you have to plan to shut down the entire Delaware River Basin Commission, then you plan to shut down. There's a way to say you have lost all moral and ethical and legal legitimacy to a government, and then you literally have to come and take it back. So that's what I find makes me happy and makes me feel like I'm with a community. And it is a vast community of people fighting fracking all across the nation. It is astounding to watch, as Lee and I have been able to see it unfold over the last 4 weeks. As I've watched it do this for 4 years, 5 years. It's amazing. So that's what gives me strength. And the idea of trying to get politicians to pay attention to somebody saying get money out of politics makes me totally exhausted. Not to think that it's a bad thing to do. I think it has to be done. But I would much rather say, all right, we're going to create our own renewable energy, and we're going to take back these structures in the moments where we really have to take them back in ways that the people can do together, not to invest in the trap. Does that make sense? That's just my personal advice. But, you guys can weigh in on this question as well. Now, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well,
just quickly, though, because there's lots of people.
As I said, as I interrupted you, I'm sorry for that, but it certainly seems...
It happened to me a lot last night, too.
It seems as though what you've been doing hasn't been successful, but I
don't think that's true at all. I do not think that's true at all. None of these things were done in a day. Okay. We have been the most successful grassroots movement on this scale, in this period of time. What has been built, anyway, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, right here.
I know this is going to be shown on HBO, but are you planning on showing it on things like independent plans or?
No. It's HBO, it's HBO. That's kind of how TV works. When one company has a movie, it's their movie. But we are doing an extensive program of house parties on July 8th. So we're going to have a house party guide. Who here has HBO? Show of hands. Okay, so you're going to invite over 25 friends on the 8th. No, I'm not kidding. You should invite over 30 or 80 friends into your living room. really tight with dip and celery. And then you're going to watch Gasland too, and then there's going to be discussion afterwards online. So that's one way. And everybody who doesn't have HBO, do you guys have a friend who has HBO? You think maybe one or two different? So you're going to invite yourself and 25 of your friends to that person's house on July 8th. No, I'm serious. Listen. This is hard work to put out a film. It's extremely, most films just die. And one of the ways I've done it is by touring my ass off. I'm going to tour the first movie to 250 cities personally. We have a community screenings program and so on. But we have this moment to change the national conversation. The more people who watch it on the 8th, the more that conversation is going to change overnight, one night. So use that. It's on television. There are people you know. Now, for those people who have no friends who have HBO and who don't have HBO, there are a lot of hotel rooms that have HBO. Or you could, God forbid, sign up for HBO. And then you could watch Game of Thrones and Girls, Gasland 2, Game of Thrones, Girls, Gasland, Water on Fire, Dragons on Fire, Leland on Fire. You know it. Amazing. So, but I've never done that kind of picture before. But you know, the idea is that that's a huge moment. It's the 8th of July, the Monday right after the 4th of July, to run out there, and we're going to help with certain elements for that. And there will be more screenings and tours and so on and so forth. But let's get this done now, so I can make another movie, so I don't have to keep touring this one. Thank you guys. Any of you guys can chime in. They want me to answer the questions so that everybody's excited for the organizing. Is that what's happening? Yeah. This is some of the most brilliant speakers that you have. And I'm hiding all the time. There you go.
What's the current state of things with the Delaware Basin Commission? Last I heard a few years ago, we were all over there west tracking. They couldn't make a decision. They were being jerked around. What's the current state of things with that?
Yeah, it's still on hold at this point. We still have the political jockeying that's happening behind the scenes. But as a result, the moratorium still holds as of this day. But if the political dynamics change, that could change as well. And that's why this film and getting the word out and keeping organized in this watershed is so vitally important, so we can keep shale gas development out of our watershed.
We also need them to also stand up on the pipeline. We also need the DRBC to stand up on the pipeline issue, because there's 6 pipelines cutting through the basin, and they can regulate those pipelines in a way to help stop the pollution coming off from them, because that's the other big scandal that's going on right now, is the infrastructure, which the film pointed out brilliantly. The infrastructure to frack means pipelines coming right through New Jersey, right through. They want to drill through New Jersey's largest water supply system, the Monksville-Wanacue Reservoir System, where 2.5 million people get their drinking water. They want to put a pipeline under a reservoir. So we need the DRBC and the Delaware River to take control, to try to prevent or at least slow down some of this crap that's going on.
And this fracking wastewater ban, if I'm right, this means that New Jersey will accept fracking wastewater into its municipal treatment facilities. Is that correct?
Actually, frac waste can come to New Jersey right now because it's not banned here. And what has happened is that cuttings from drilling and frac waste from when they clean out frac ponds and frac tanks has been coming to New Jersey. We know 3 facilities in New Jersey has accepted this waste, and we also know that that waste has exceeded what they're allowed to take in terms of radioactivity. It's also filled with other chemicals that Josh has in the film. And it's been going to Clean Earth of Carteret, Clean Earth of Kearney. It's gone. The water has gone to Lorco, and also DuPont in South Jersey and Salem has taken some wastewater too that traveled through Bucks County first. So that's why we need a frac waste ban in New Jersey, because it's actually, right now a big loophole from the law that allows that frac waste to be brought to the state. Now, whether we drilled in New Jersey or not, and we're trying to fight that too. As a matter of fact, the legislature voted to ban fracking, and unfortunately, Governor Christie vetoed that ban. Also, the legislature in New Jersey voted to ban frac waste by a bipartisan landslide vote, and that was vetoed by Governor Christie again. We have to change our political dynamics here in New Jersey, don't we? And this is the year to do it.
2 weeks, hopefully this week. We have a lot of Republican support. We got to keep their backs up because, unfortunately, going up against the governor is not always easy of the same party. But we're trying to get that vote in the next week or so. We're going to need your help because we got, you know, during Hurricane Sandy, 20% of the sewer plants in New Jersey were knocked out, including the 5th largest in the country. So they had fracking waste here. We would have taken a disaster and turned it into a nightmare.
The rally!
Yeah, a rally on the 20th at State House.
Here's a flyer.
This Thursday, the 20th, we're going to have a rally, protest, and lobby day at the State House. 2 doors down. Come on now.
So what this means is that you're getting, okay, here's what this means. This means that Governor Christie, who stood there with President Obama, dealing with Hurricane Sandy, a hurricane supercharged by warming temperatures, by climate change, is encouraging the infrastructure of more fossil fuel development, of the biggest new fossil fuel development in the country. That makes no sense. That's literally working at cross purposes. All the damage that was caused by Sandy, all the things that we know we're going to need strong communities to start to fend off, are being encouraged by this governor, and that's the science. That's the definition of hypocrisy. It's the definition of abdication of responsibility and political playmaking without regard for the citizens of its own state. So I don't think you can get much more black and white. If you're encouraging oil and gas development by aiding their production and then going out there and starting to talk about climate change, it's absolute nonsense. They're in the back with the black.
I'd just like to say that I believe Gasland will exceed what Gasland wanted, and maybe we can talk a little about what it has done. And I also want to remind us all, way back in the 60s and 70s, we heard all the tobacco companies telling us how safe they had pumps, they had all kinds of studies. They knew it was safe to smoke, and we're going through that same darn thing now, and we need to stand behind you. We need to stand up and say this is not good for our country, and as Americans, we care about our country.
But in reality, I'm just standing behind you. I'm making a film about people who are in the same position as you are, who are fighting every day, and I'm the one trying to bring their message forward. The way to make this successful, or look, Gasland won, did a good job. It was, you know, we didn't know. We thought it was going to be like a 5-minute YouTube video, and then it got to be a little bit more than that. And, you know, it was picked up by the establishment in a way that was really helpful, but what really made that film go, that film is still streaming right now, is you guys, audiences. You know, I'm proud of it. I think it's a good film. I'm proud of this film. The success of this film is up to you. It's how much you can get your people to see it. It's how much you can take it and do screenings once our community screenings program kicks off, and keep it alive. And keep it out there in front of people. Talk about it, tell people to see it. But beyond that, continue to campaign and fight, because that's what this is really about. It's really about defending your own home. And you're absolutely right. These merchants of doubt are out there like crazy. And they would like you to believe that somehow I am like Superman and arranged all these families, thousands of families across America to fake lighting their water on fire somehow. You're like some brilliant Svengali type magician. You know, I could mind control people in Wyoming that are 6'5", you know. But that's what the ISIS would have you believe, and that somehow this is all a hoax. And they're out there saying that. So you have to get very active about countering that information everywhere you can. Thank you, Craig Stevens. We have some folks here, Craig Stevens and Ray Kimball, who came from Dimmick, and they've been doing water deliveries to families that need. And then also always remind, this is raised water. You guys just stand up and just acknowledge that you're here. Thank you. I was getting nervous watching this. They wouldn't let it into the New York State Senate. They said it was toxic waste. You can't get that in the building. And Ray was like, will you please call my governor and tell him that? Mary Lynn Hills.
Yeah, I'd like to know if any of the companies that were portrayed in the movie are supporting Governor Christie.
There's one there.
You know, in his campaign.
It just exploded. I don't know.
One of the largest fracking drillers in Pennsylvania now is Hess Oil and Gas, which is headquartered here in New Jersey, and they're big political contributors to both parties, including our governor. And our governor went out of his way to subsidize the building of 3 natural gas plants in New Jersey to the tune of $2 billion. We can't get a dime for offshore wind, but he's going to give $2 billion to subsidize gas plants so they can bring fracking gas to New Jersey and burn in power plants in the Ironbound section in Newark and in Woodbridge and in Old Bridge, New Jersey. So that's what our governor's been doing.
So yes, the answer is yes. Yes.
Hi, I'm a teacher and I show...
Stand up and speak loud.
I'm a teacher and I show Gasland to all my students proudly. But my question is, I've been following Bill McKibben and the 350.org, and I really love their idea of, you know, we kind of have no choice in regards to being, we have to buy their gas, we have to buy their product drivers to drive our cars, but they're suggesting that we divest.
Yeah.
And I was shocked to learn that my retirement is heavily invested in Caliber. What is your feeling on that?
If you're one of those people who has a portfolio, then you should find out, because it's actually, once you get to, like, if you have $4, you're probably not investing in oil and gas. If you have like $10, you know, it's very tricky. Everything leads into really the currency of the world is oil and gas. Getting out of it is tough. And you know, I went on tour with Bill McKibben to do the math tour, and we were going to all these universities, and the universities have like LEED certified buildings and green initiatives on their campus, and Bill was like, green your university's portfolio now. Make sure your endowment is not invested. And a lot of people are catching on to that. You can find out more about the divestment campaign at 350.org. There's a whole kit called Fossil Free, and I think it's really smart. I think it's wonderful. And what we're all trying to do here with the frac activists and the people who are fighting hot top removal and the people who are fighting deepwater drilling and the people who are fighting the Keystone XL pipeline and the tar sands development and the climate change movement, this is really one movement. You know, I know that that's how it works, and we have to try to share tactics and share strategy. We have to make our stance where we need to make our stance, but we also have to realize, even if you're to ban fracking in the whole Marcellus Shale, we could win the whole Marcellus Shale and lose so much of what we love about this region to climate change. You know, so this is not just about our own place. This is about winning all of these battles. And one of the ways we want to do that is to develop renewable energy. And I'm going to be launching with Mark Ruffalo, the green superhero, the incredible Hulk. He's a green superhero for other reasons. And some renewable energy bankers from California, and Mark Jacobson, who's in the film, who saw a thing called the Solutions Project. And I happen to be wearing a t-shirt right now that says, "Wind, water, and sun." That's the plan, WWS. And so who looks like a superhero insignia? But the plan is to try to help communities, when we're talking about creating democracy, we're also talking about energy democracy. And how do we create, because, you know, if we have to be just as involved in the creation of the new energy solution as we have been fighting off the frackers. Because if we don't, it's just going to be a wind farm where you don't want it. You have to be involved, and they're going to have to be wind farms, or else we're all going to get fracked. That's just the bottom line. There has to be. And offshore wind is a great idea, because it actually becomes a wind wall and breaks up hurricane winds. Can you imagine this? Jacobson is doing a paper right now. How many wind turbines you need to slow down a hurricane? He's got the calculations. You could have tamed a lot of the effects of Sandy had you had a lot of wind turbines up along the North Atlantic coast. Breaks it up. Science. And so we're going to have to go, but before we do that, we're going to take that on tour, we're going to break out with people and talk about how to create and develop renewable energy. What we want to do right now is something radical and exciting, which I'm very psyched for, and I'm going to hand over to Trace Carluccio to Amen to us.
We're gonna organize.
Okay, we just have about 5 minutes, so all the time that we have for this breakout session is for you really to either go to this corner or that corner, or come here and sign up on a sign-in sheet for you to get more engaged in the issues that are most important here in the Delaware River Valley and in New Jersey. So that corner over there, Maya, is pipelines and LNG. Anybody who would like to get involved in liquefied natural gas pipe and all the pipelines and infrastructure is to go to that corner over there. And Kate or Faith, if you could bring the sign-up sheet over to Maya over there, because she needs it, or ask Deborah outside, please, to get it in here to Maya. And then over in this corner is going to be Jeff and Dave and Kate, and they're going to be talking about the frac waste ban in New Jersey. We're trying to get this going, as you heard, on Thursday, and June 20th is our big rally out here in front of the State House. In order to get involved in that and that campaign, go right over to that corner, and there'll be a sign-in sheet over there for you to get more engaged there. If you want to talk about the Delaware River watershed and what's happening in the DRBC, stay here with Food and Water Watch. Matt and I are going to be right here, and come on up. So thank you very much for coming in. The one thing that Ivy here at the museum wants me to announce is that when you leave the auditorium, please walk directly out, because we have another screening coming in. So they don't want a crowd to get all stuff in the foyer.
But listen, can I say one last thing? This is the most important part. So just go to one of these corners. Just take 5 minutes, go to one of these corners, please. Because that's what we're here for.